Hello, folks. Zeganite here again, as usual. Haven't made a video in a bit. Making one now. I guess for various reasons. I came down with COVID. It happened. I think I've got it one time before, January 2020. Before it had gotten to be known that there was a pandemic or anyone knew what COVID meant. Um, and there was no test for it then, so I just assumed that I got it based on my symptoms, which were that I couldn't taste my food. And I got it now again. And again, I can't taste my food. Didn't start out that way. First few days, I could taste just fine. It was pretty mild. It didn't seem that bad, although I was feeling very wiped out and got that kind of lightheaded, flu-y sort of feeling. Um, you know, I actually went to work with COVID, not realizing I had it. I wore a mask the whole day, knowing that I might have had something, even though I didn't know if it was COVID, and I wasn't sure if I was getting sick yet. But then Christmas Eve, the day of Christmas Eve, I woke up, felt pretty bad, and realized I couldn't continue to expose my family. Um, my sister was visiting with her niece and my brother-in-law. We were supposed to have a bigger family gathering down in Connecticut, or at least originally that's what I'd hoped would happen, but that didn't end up happening because probably mostly because it would have been more complicated, I guess. Um, but So that wasn't really even the plan. I would have liked to have done that, but that didn't happen. And then I didn't even end up. So it was like, first I was expecting a big family gathering for Christmas and looking forward to that. That ended up not being the plan. So we were just going to do it here with my family. And, one of my two sisters, my other sister, didn't feel like coming out to the East Coast because she doesn't like it out here, especially in the wintertime. She thinks it's depressing. Um, so she refused to come out, which is disappointing. But not that disappointing considering that I got COVID took my test when I woke up on Christmas Eve, and that was it. My Christmas was destroyed. Ruined. Ruined. I had to stay in my room the whole time, both days of Christmas. Now, I look forward to the holiday season every year. Um, you know, Thanksgiving and Christmas are my only, my highlight holidays. Thanksgiving especially. I like Thanksgiving the most, so at least I got to enjoy Thanksgiving this year. But it was weird spending Christmas isolated from everybody. It basically wiped out the whole holiday. It's like it didn't even exist. I didn't get to see my tree that I worked so hard on. I'm very proud of my Christmas trees. I put a lot of time into them. You should see what it looks like. I don't know. I can't really show you a picture, and I can't go upstairs because I'm still sick and still quarantining. But it's an amazing tree that I made. Maybe I'll post a link to it or something. I don't know. I'm like I try to be an artist about it. I mean, I'm not that much of an artist about it because it's mostly the same tree every year. This year, it's just really well done. The same work that I do every year. I think I'm very proud of it. Um, I'm meticulous about it. There's a lot of layers to it. It's got three kinds of garlands. I just got the expensive app controlled LED lights. Um, Tons of ornaments that have been saved over all the years from as early as 1980s, even before then. I think some of them came from pre my existence. Most of them are from 1980 onward, and it's just bought a perfect tree. I'm always very meticulous about picking the right tree. I want it to have that perfect Christmas tree shape, elongated triangle, whatever that is. Is that isosceles? I feel like it's isosceles. And the one we got this year was just really nicely shaped, and with the new app controlled lights, put a mixture of app controlled lights and a strand of just cool white lights LEDs that I got, and the lights looked fantastic this year. I mean, it's just a great tree, and I couldn't sit by it. I couldn't sit by the fire like I like to. Usually we have a fireplace, gas fireplace upstairs. We would have turned on. I was looking forward to sitting by the fire with my family, opening presents, and I was confined to my room for 2 days straight. And then now I'm barely getting to see my niece is here for until the second, and I'm not going to get to see her much. I'm not going to get to see my sister much. You know, I'm just trapped down here in the basement. Or in my room, one of those two places. I just lost my sense of taste last night, before dinner. I was a little worried. You know, you never know how long this is going to last. Today I still mostly don't have my sense of taste, but I noticed I could kind of taste some of the, we did. I was able to have, I mean, kept bringing me. They brought me Thanksgiving dinner. We usually have a traditional Thanksgiving Eve dinner for Southern Italians. They do like the seven fishes. So you get it's not really seven fishes. We don't really do that traditionally, but usually our thing is linguine with clams is the main course. You got shrimp cocktail, stuffed clams, crab cakes. What else? I think that was mostly it for this year. In the past, we did it up a lot bigger. It was a lot more stuff. This year, it was kind of mellow, and not as much effort was put into it because we were a smaller group, and there wasn't as many people to cook. All right. But it was still good. I just didn't get to enjoy it with my family. They brought it up to me on a tray in my room. And then for Christmas Day, we have usually used to be stuffed shells was the big thing, traditional Italian. I don't know if that's traditional Italian or not, but for us, tradition is to have stuffed shells on Christmas Day. Unfortunately, we couldn't find any shells, so we had manicotti, or as we like to say, manigot, with the Americanized, or not Americanized, the Italian-American way of saying things. You chop off the answer words, so yeah, we had manigot. And, it was pretty good, but it was all bought from Stop and Shop, so, this isn't exactly the legit stuff. No one went to New York to get the good stuff. I don't know. I prefer the stuffed shells to the manigot, but it was still pretty good. So anyway, today I had that for dinner. It was very weird not being able to taste your food, and I had a protein shake this morning, and then I didn't eat anything the whole day because I felt, what's the point of eating anything if I'm not going to be able to taste it? But I had the manigot in the end for dinner because I figured with the cheese in there, it's more likely to go bad faster. It turns out I should have had this leftover chicken we've had that needs to get eaten, and now it's another day old. So, but anyway, I could just make out a little bit of the taste of the manigot, which means that maybe my sense of taste won't be gone for too long. It's only been a day since it's been gone, and already I'm getting an inkling that it's not going to be gone forever, so I'm optimistic about getting that back within fairly short order. When my sister got COVID, she had loss of taste for 2 weeks, so I don't know if, I doubt it'll last that long, considering that I already got an inkling of the taste of my dinner already, but I don't know, maybe it comes and goes, I have no idea. It's a very weird phenomenon of COVID that you can't taste things. But anyway, so yeah, I guess the reason why I'm going through all this, this is not what this video is about. I mean, I was really depressed as usual. As you know, I'm depressed a lot. And I was really depressed about having to, to me, I was really looking forward to this Christmas. No, I wasn't really looking forward to it, I'm not going to lie. Actually, I guess I was looking forward to it. I mean, it was kind of like it was already a downgrade from my usual, big family Christmas. It was going to be a small family Christmas, and then it turned out to not even be that. But, the best thing about getting COVID was I have to stay out of work for 5 days. And let's see, that means, the 30th is the first day I can go back to work. I don't know if I'll go back. It'll depend on how I'm feeling on the 30th. I've been getting very slightly better every day, but it's awfully slow progress. I don't know if I'll feel better by the 30th or not. I hope I do, because we are supposed to go down for New Year's to my aunt and uncle's in Greenwich. Um, Makes me sound like I'm really rich, but they're the only rich people in my family, so I don't think I'm rich. It just so happens that I have a rich and accomplished dentist uncle who's like a cosmetic dentist to the stars in Manhattan. So yeah, I do have an uncle and aunt that live in Greenwich and a couple of cousins. So, it's nice to know people that are rich, but we're not rich. Anyway, so yeah, that was going to be like the last chance for me to have any kind of a family party, and I'm pretty skeptical I'm going to be able to test negatively on the 30th. We'll see. I'm going to test on the 30th. If it comes out negative, then I think everyone wants me to go. So I hope to God I test negative, but I'm not feeling great still. So I've been feeling a teeny bit better every day, but you can kind of hear in my voice. It doesn't sound like I'm that close to being ready to go. So who knows if I'll be better by then? But I really hope I will, because after that things are looking pretty bleak. My dad leaves for Mexico on the 4th, and he usually goes there until April 15th when he flies to Chicago for my niece's birthday, and then comes back here another 2 weeks later usually. So he won't be back around till late April at the earliest. And that just leaves me and my mom here. And it's already kind of hard for me to go all that time without my dad. I'm really close with my dad. I spend a lot of time with him. And I don't have a lot to look forward to, because I'll have to go back to work 40 hours a week. And I guess I should mention, yeah, I'll make mention of the fact that my last video I said I was going after a shift leader job. Well, I got the shift leader job. I am a shift leader now. It's a $2 raise, which is hardly anything to get excited about. And considering how little the raise is, switching from back to 40 hours a week is just reminding me of how much working 40 hours a week is just almost intolerable. I mean, for me, it's almost intolerable. I don't know how people do this. I know this is like standard. People work 40 hours a week, but maybe if you were working 40 hours a week and you enjoyed your career, it wouldn't be so bad. But 40 hours a week. I mean, I was looking at the money I've made for this year. My price or my hourly wages changed a bunch of times this year. I started out making $15.50, and then maybe after 4 months or something like that, I started in January making $15.50. About 4 months later, we got a $2 raise that my union negotiated for us, which was nice. And then I switched to part-time, so I was still making the same wage, but less hours. Now I've gone back to full-time, making $2 more an hour with the new job. But for the year, I looked at my earnings. I made $21,000 this year, working most of the year. Some of it part-time, but $21,000 is garbage. It's shit. And yeah, all right, I won't make $21,000 next year if I work the same. If I work these 40 hours at this new job, maybe I'll make, I don't know, in the 30s. Probably like 35, something like that is my guess. 36 maybe. But it's still a pittance. Anyone knows you're making 30 something grand a year, and it's not really enough to feel comfortable. I mean, it might be barely enough to sustain you, but if I wasn't living at home right now, I would be living paycheck to paycheck, having to watch my prices in the grocery store, figuring out every last little bit. I'd have to be counting my pennies, and not living a lifestyle that's even remotely comfortable. And so, there's not a lot of joy in it. I mean, the job I'm working, as I've mentioned before, is not the worst thing for the world. It's also not saving the world or anything like that. It's sort of, it's better to work for a co-op than for a supermarket. but you know, considering how low the compensation is, it doesn't really make you feel like you're doing anything that's super worthwhile. And it's not like we still sell tons of stuff in plastic. Anytime you're seeing tons of plastic, be created by your work, I don't care how much better it is than working for a supermarket. I don't want to work in a job that's responsible for the creation and pollution of tons of extra plastic material. So that's the biggest thing. I think if we were able to cut our plastic usage close to zero, then I'd feel really good about working at this place. But there's enough plastic that gets used. Even our trash bags, having to line everything with plastic, having to throw all the plastic into the trash. It's depressing to me. So yeah, we're not saving the world. It's things don't have to be shipped as far because we feature mostly local products. Or not mostly, but at least maybe half local products, I guess. So that's good. But that's the best thing we're doing at work. So yeah, I'm working 40 hours a week. I'm getting paid in the 30s. No one is. That's an uncertain future. Making anywhere in the 30s. Um, I am supervising people for the first time. I don't know, it's not something I really wanted to do, but I'm just trying to figure out a way to kind of move forward in life. And this was my attempt to do that by taking this job. I never was anyone's boss before. Now have a little more responsibility. I boss people around. I don't really boss people around, but I'm supposed to boss people around. I try to be as lenient as I can, but I'm coming to the realization that some people, if you're too lenient, they'll walk all over you. I can't have that either. If I want things to get done, people have directly refused things that I've requested, which I'm trying to figure out how to deal with that right now. I don't like being the boss. I don't. I enjoyed being one of the commoners. Being the boss is tough. People expect you to lead. I mean, I can lead, I guess. I know what needs to get done. It's not like I'm incapable, but it's you have to deal with personalities, people that may not be thrilled or may not think that you deserve the job. So a lot of people applied for this job. So at least it was a show from my work that they had some amount of faith that I was able to do a job like this. It's not exactly it's not a job that probably is going to lead to much. I mean, maybe it would lead to management work down the line. I don't know if I want to be a manager, generally. This is like being a mini manager, being the shift leader, and I don't get any joy from bossing people around. I don't really get any joy from this position more so than I did as being a cashier. And the only good thing about it is I get paid $2 more an hour, which, isn't a lot of money, but it's better than making what I was making. And the job is similarly, it's a little harder, but it's not that much harder, and it's a little more engaging. So at least I've got that going for me. But so yeah, that's new. But it hasn't made work fun. You deal with kind of at the customer service desk. We're doing customer service desk work, and you deal with the most annoying customers working at this customer service desk. They're people that are coming back for returns, and these people are returning things. I mean, I rarely return things myself. Most of these people. I mean, it's okay to want to return things, but some of these returns are just or some of the things people are asking for is unreasonable. You deal with a lot of people that are just asking for unreasonable things, and we're just told to basically throw money at them, make them go away. Not make them go away, but make sure they're happy. But it's hard giving people things that you deep down feel like this person doesn't deserve this. This person is abusing the system. But that's what we're supposed to do. There's not a lot of, they don't have a lot of policy in terms of you're not really supposed to give anyone too hard a time. So I mean, at least that makes it easy I don't have to tell people no, but some of these people deserve to be told no. Anyway, this is all pretty boring, I'm sure, for you. This is not what I'm making this video about. I just wanted to give you a little update since I haven't made a video for a while to tell you where I'm at. So I'm going to be working 40 hours a week going forward. I was really looking forward to going snowboarding this winter, and now that I'm working 40 hours a week, I have to be lucky enough to have my days off line up with a time when it snows, or at least be close enough to when it snows that there'll be some half decent snow left on the ground. I was already had an opportunity to go once this year, but I didn't have anyone to go with, and I couldn't motivate. I stayed up too late working out and couldn't motivate myself to get up early the next day to go snowboarding. So I will be going with my uncle and my cousin fairly soon at some point because they love to go, and I told them we've gone a few times before. We're probably not going to go more than 2 or 3 times this year, is my guess. But it'll be better than nothing. And now I have a little bit more money to spend on it, even though I don't really have a lot of money. I can't really justify spending any money at this point. I should be saving for retirement, given the fact that I don't have much money saved for retirement, and what I do have saved is mostly just in my bank account, which is not how you're supposed to be saving at all. But I don't really want to help the stock market at all. I don't want to be part of that. I don't want to be putting my money in stocks for causes I don't believe in. Um, I guess I've been thinking about buying just some land or something. They have cheap land around here. That would be a reasonable investment that wouldn't involve assisting a company whose ethics I didn't agree with, making money. Um, but it's always hard for me to wrap up my money in investments because I like having a rainy day fund, and I like having the ability. It's hard for me to think about saving money for when I'm in my 60s, 70s, because it's kind of like life. I expect life to be so terrible at that point, so grim, the situation, especially for me, without having a family, that it's hard to imagine, for one, it's hard to imagine I'd have enough money saved up at that age to really make a difference, number one. And number two, um, I don't know how much I'm going to enjoy my money when I'm that age. I'll probably need it, but it's just, I have a hard time preparing for a dismal future. So, um, I don't know. Maybe I'll buy some land eventually. I'm not sure. Um, we'll see. Anyway, unfortunately, I don't spend a lot of my money, so I do have a little bit saved up. I'm not a big spender, but mostly I'm not a big spender because I don't have to pay rent. I used to pay rent to my parents, but they stopped taking it from me because I guess they figured it's kind of silly for me to give them that money. They're just going to giving it back to me at some point in the form of inheritance. I'd be willing to pay them if they wanted it, but they don't ask for it anymore, so I don't give it. I'm not going to, force it on them. I need the money for retirement in my mind, so even though I'm not saving it properly. But and people at my work still don't know that I live at home. I've managed to keep it a secret as much as I can. I imagine some people at this point are aware that I'm lying about it. I've made up a couple of stories already. Told people that I live with a friend slash roommate who's a tech guy, and silly things. I try not to talk about it. I just hope that people don't bring it up. I don't want the whole store to know that I live with my parents because I don't even know if I would have gotten this promotion if people knew I live with my parents. That's people immediately think of you a certain way. I mean, they should, obviously. That's because I am a certain way. I am exactly what they think. I'm the guy who lives with his parents in his 40s. That doesn't look good, but I don't want people to know that. I don't want people to discriminate against me the way they usually do when they find out you're in that situation. I don't want people to treat me the way. I guess I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with living at home in your 40s. It's a lot of people are struggling and financially and need that help. I mean, could I exist on my own outside of the house? Maybe. It would be tight. Again, I'd be living a paycheck to paycheck existence. But since I have no love life anyway, what's the point really? And it's like I guess I could do it to start a love life, but since I don't want to date women my own age, there's really no point. I'm not going to get the women I want anymore, as I mentioned in the previous video. So rather stay at home, and hide who I really am to the world. It's too bad. Most of these people just want to get to know me, but I don't want them to know, the worst parts of me. I don't want them to have that on me, have something to tear me down with. That's what people have done to me in my life. They've torn me down. People rarely prop you up. Most people just. And the people at the co-op are very nice, but I don't know. I'm also noticing, since I've been given this little promotion, it's like there's a little bit more competitiveness, and I don't know if people see me as a threat. It's kind of silly, People get like this kind of organizational mindset sometimes, even though my job is not coveted by, wouldn't be coveted by 99% of the people on the planet, because people in the co-op see me moving up, they might think, oh, here comes, this tall guy up the ranks or whatever. I don't know if that's what they're actually thinking, but I've been getting, a little more competitive treatment from people at work, from people who, are at my position and above or below, and it's really bizarre. I wish people could just relax and let everybody do their job and have everybody try to get things done. I'm making $2 more an hour. I need all the money I can get, but you got people that are starting to treat me differently based on me getting this job, and it's just kind of like it's so stupid. People are so petty and competitive. It's sad. I wish people could just get along and help each other live through the struggles of life, but it's like there's always this sort of thing. Yeah, well, you and you and me. It's like there's all this kind of nitpicking, backbiting, rat race bullshit that goes on, and it's just sickening, really. Um, that's one of the reasons why I just resent having to be a human. It sort of comes with the territory. There's natural competition that goes on. There's a natural hierarchy that happens, and I wish I didn't have to be a part of it. I wish I didn't have to be part of a hierarchy. I wish I. um, I wish. It's like there's all these. I've seen all these videos on YouTube about how you can tell if somebody's lying and how to come across with charisma and things to say or not to say. It's almost like you got to start. You have to start how to appear to be confident, things like this. And it's like you've got all these people probably analyzing everything that I say, everything that I do, how my eyebrows are moving, how you know, my body language, making judgments about me based on, how I act and how I'm deferential or not or whatever, or how I might act egotistical or something sometime or another. And it's just kind of like, you got all these people that are just dying to get an edge somehow, get an edge on other people. Let's figure out how this person works so I can see whether or not he's lying, and so I can see, whether or not this guy's dominant or passive, and what can I get away with, or it's just kind of like it's disgusting to me. People just want to be able to analyze each other and nitpick and change their behavior in ways that they can be perceived, in a better light. And it's kind of like again, it's like we live the life we live, and whoever we are should be good enough, or at least, I don't know. I just hate being judged by people. I try not to judge people as much as I can. You can't help but make some internal judgments, and so I know other people probably feel the same way. They probably don't want to be judgmental, but you can't help it to some extent. But a lot of people really get into that judgment, and a lot of people love judging other people, and I try not to. I try to be as non-judgmental as I can. I judge myself more than I judge anyone else, I guess. Um, and there's just so much competition and so much of these little unsaid body language BS things that go on. I don't want to change who I am. I don't want to act differently. I don't want to have to, look online to see how to be an effective manager. I would just hope that my experiences to this point made me not a very effective shift leader. I'm not a manager. Um, I'd like to think that my experience at this point would be enough of a guide to at least allow me to be myself, and that would be good enough, but it may not be good enough, I don't know. I guess I just don't like having to be people's bosses and anyone's boss, and I don't like the competitiveness of the work environment. I don't like the rat race. I don't like the hierarchy. It's a struggle for me to exist in that world, and that's what I'm going back to. That's what I'll be going back to starting next year. I mean, everyone's been most of the other cashiers have been real nice to me, even the ones that I beat out for the job. They're trying to help me do my job well, most of them, one of them is starting to make some comments that make me wonder. I was nothing but nice to her when we were co-cashiers. I don't know if she may have applied for this job too. I'm not sure if she did or not. I feel like she did. She was working as a cashier a lot longer than I've been, so not at this job. I mean, I worked at this job longer than she did, but she's been a cashier for many years, and maybe that's why she's resentful. She thinks that she knows how to do this kind of work better than I did. Maybe she thinks she deserved the job more. I don't know, but she's making comments that make me a little concerned. I don't know. I'm not going to say anything about it until it becomes a bigger problem, but we might be getting to that point at some point. Anyway, it's not that important. Um, so yeah, basically, let me get on to the main point of this video. Half an hour in, I've pretty much caught you up on the major issues. So the big thing is, I was pissed about getting COVID and losing my Christmas. Like I said, going forward, all I've got is maybe a few snowboarding trips to look forward to, and working 40 hours a week, which I'm not a fan of. I hate working 40 hours a week. It feels like a total drain on your life. I have no more big dreams in life. I'm too old for most of the things I dreamt of when I was younger, and I can't imagine anything going forward in the ages of from 40 to death that that are worth aspiring to, particularly. I could write a diet book. That's the one thing maybe I'd say. You can always be a successful author at any age. That's like the last thing kind of left open to me that I could do it. I've been talking about making this book for months, and I don't know if I'm ever going to actually do it. Um, you know, but that would be something I could do where it could really make me some real money, and I could quit working 40 hours a week. It's not likely to make me real money because I've never written a book before, and it would take some luck, and I mean, the chances of me going from nothing to writing a book that sold at all are not that high. But I do know that my methodology works really well for me, and I do know that some people you know, would really benefit from doing it. And I feel like I could write a diet book that would be, not just your average diet book. I could make it kind of funny. I have some sense of humor. I write fairly well. So it's possible for me to write a book. It wouldn't be particularly that proprietary information. It's not like hard, it's not hard to understand my diet. It's a pretty basic diet. There's nothing like that's any major secret in there. But I feel like I could write the book in a way that it would be funny enough that maybe, some people would like it. I don't know. So that's the one thing. Maybe I could write a book, a small diet book. It wouldn't be like a major text, but I don't know if it would be hard for me to know if I could ever have any real success with that. But that's the one thing I could imagine. But I never really wanted to be an author. It's not wasn't my life's goal or anything. And writing it's helping people diet. I mean, well, yeah, I guess I could see that being valuable because when I was a kid, I was fat, and I got crapped on a lot for that. On top of other things. Maybe I could have prevent other kids who had weight issues from give them an opportunity to take control of their life at a younger age. If somebody had given me a chance, if I'd known about this diet, if I'd formulated this diet when I was in school, maybe I would have had a much better experience and would have gone on to be a lot more confident and had more success with women and all that. But it's also hard for me, I can pretend like I'd be writing it for that reason, but really I'd just be doing it for the money because it's hard for me to care. I hate to say it, but it's hard for me to care about other people in that way. I'm so bitter about my experience, and this kind of gets around to what I was about to talk about, which is, I was really depressed during this period and angry. I'm angry at God. I feel like God's taken a lot from me. Um, and he took away my family for Christmas. My family is like one of the last big things I appreciate. Food, my family, and after that, yeah, food and family is kind of like the two of my favorite things in the world. And it's almost like both of those things were kind of taken from me with this COVID. The family. I was taken. My family was taken from me on Christmas. But it's not to say it was all on God. It's on me too. I didn't wear a mask this last couple of weeks. It was the holidays. The store was packed with people. I was in trial by fire mode as a shift leader, dealing with lots and lots of customers, and it was stupid. I had hubris. I thought, oh, I haven't gotten COVID this whole time, I'll be fine. And of course, I get it on Christmas Eve. I test positive. So yeah, all right, it's on me. I should have been wearing a mask. Would the mask have prevented me from getting COVID? Maybe, maybe not. Um, they're not ironclad. It wouldn't have hurt. I wonder if I would have got it regardless. But the timing was just god awful. So yeah, I was just pissed. Of course, I would lose. First, I lose my family, and then now I lost my sense of taste. I can't even enjoy the food anymore. Took away my family and the food. Now, like I said, the sense of taste might already be coming back, so I don't worry about that too much. But still, it feels like a slap in the face to have the two things that I appreciate the most taken away from me during, one of the few highlight times of the year, the holidays. So, taking away my Christmas. I mean, I love Christmas, and it was just taken from me this year. So I've been angry, isolated. Don't have anyone to talk to about it. I'm just stewing in my own angry emotions, Yeah, it's made me, just resentful, very resentful. And I don't know, because of the darkness of my state of mind, I started watching videos on YouTube of dark things, I occasionally go to these dark places on YouTube, which is sort of like, watching kind of the final moments of life, watching people about to die, basically. I used to listen to a lot of black box recordings, last seconds before people know they're going to die. Listening to, watching dash cam videos or, live stream videos of people right before they get into car accidents. I don't usually watch, I can't watch the gory stuff, so I don't go that dark. There was a time when I was even watching, workplace accidents, and I can't watch that stuff anymore. It's too gory and too disturbing. There's a limit even for me. I think it started actually. My parents got me the book by the bass player for the Talking Heads, Chris Frantz. Remain in Love is his book, and I guess I can give you a quick review on that. I mean, the guy, I was really, I had heard good things about this book, and reading it, it's kind of like the guy comes across as very full of himself, I'll say. I mean, a lot of these rock star autobiographies do. But, this guy, I can tell he's not telling the whole truth in the book. And that's the hardest thing I have with it, is it's like he seems kind of very bitter against David Byrne, so he takes every opportunity he can get to, say something slighting about David Byrne. I don't love David Byrne particularly, but you can tell that, he's not being 100% fair to him. There's a lot of biting remarks, which makes him just seem bitter. And he describes his relationship with his bass player girlfriend so far. I'm about 220 pages in or so. And he describes his relationship with his bass player girlfriend as like the perfect, ideal relationship where nothing ever goes wrong. And I get the feeling like, he doth protest too much, as they say. Maybe there was some infidelity somewhere that he's trying to sugarcoat by just acting like there's never been any problem and he loves her. I don't know. Maybe he'll talk about infidelity later in the book somewhere. I'm not sure. It does seem like he's really painting out his life to be this kind of, it's almost like an Instagram version of an autobiography, rock star autobiography. So I don't really believe it, and there's a lot of time spent saying how great everything is. And I mean, it's hard not to believe it because he was in one of the most successful bands of all time. So he got one in a million chances, and he got super lucky, and everything worked out. It's also hard for me to read the story about a guy who, wasn't really that dedicated to musicianship from an early age. He went to the Rhode Island School of Design, and he was mostly an art major. And he played drums on and off for years and years, and he started young, so he had that advantage. But, I mean, Chris Frantz, he's a good drummer. I'm not saying he's not a good drummer. He is a good drummer. They're a good band. You know, they sound great. I love the Talking Heads. They're one of my all-time favorite bands. Um, but you know, this is a guy who didn't put a hell of a lot more time into his musicianship than I did into mine. You know, and he got everything he could possibly have wanted out of it. You know, everything he dreamed of came true for him. And I feel like I put in the same amount of time, and nothing that I dreamed of came true for me. Um, you know, you can argue about, you know, why that's the case. You know, maybe he did some things that I didn't do. He took more chances than I did for certain. So maybe that was what it really came down to. But also, he was just in the right place at the right time. You know, sometimes with these big bands, you just got to be in the right place at the right time. You got to find the right people to partner with. You know, Chris Franz. Well, we know who Chris Franz is. If it wasn't for David Byrne, probably not. You know, David Byrne was kind of the you know, as much as solid as a rhythm section as he and Tina Weymouth were, David Byrne brought that kind of star power quirkiness that made the band kind of what it was, you know. David Byrne, despite being as weird as he was, he gave the band his sound, the sound of his voice, the way his ability to perform really, you know, made the band something that stood out. Um, Especially in an era when you didn't have to have a perfectly polished vocal in order to be successful. So, you know. So yeah, I'm struggling. You know, I started to struggle with that a little bit. It's hard reading this book when this guy comes across as so full of himself and so kind of self-congratulatory and you know, talking about all the wonderful things that they've done, you know, all the European tours. Especially he just goes on and on. I mean, you know, this talk about the European tours, it's like it kind of loses all interest after a while, and it's like, oh, when we went here, we put a great sold out show and 3 encores and 2 encores, and everyone loved us. And it's just kind of like every show on his European tour sounds exactly the same. You know, oh, everything was great and it was fantastic, and we stayed in the nicest hotel and had the best dinner, and it's just kind of like, you know, it gets tiresome after a while. So I don't know. I'm gonna finish reading it, but I'll give you my quick review on the book. It's so. There's a few interesting tidbits in there, but I've read better rock star autobiographies, let me tell you. But anyway, as much as I respect Talking Heads and, you know, the whole band, but anyway, I got to a part. The reason what got me onto the whole dark thing on YouTube was there was a small section where he talks about a woman that used to be in a band. I forget her name. Shoot, ugh, I forget. Anyway, there's a woman who used to be in some punk bands in the '70s who ended up becoming a traffic reporter in New York City. And there's a famous uh, uh, recording of her doing the traffic report in the helicopter, and then all of a sudden you hear the helicopter start to malfunction, and she goes, "Hit the water! Hit the water! Hit the water!" She's freaking the f out because they're gonna die soon. You know, she's about to die, and so she's telling the helicopter pilot to try to hit the water. He doesn't hit the water. He hits the top of a fence, and I mean, I think they actually ended up surviving the initial plunge, but then she died in like she was trapped. They were trapped in the helicopter, and I don't know if she drowned or it was just bodily probably injuries from the crash. So I don't know. I went to look up that recording because I'd heard it before, and I like to, when I read these rock star autobiographies, I like to look up the songs. That's what I was mostly doing, was looking up all the songs that they mentioned, so you can kind of understand their influences and put yourself into the mindset of that specific time. Um, I've listened to a lot of good. That's one of the best thing about this book, I'd say, is I've listened to a lot of good songs from, you know, the late '60s, early '70s that I didn't really know particularly well. I listened to Patti Smith for the first time. I wasn't crazy about Patti Smith, but the Modern Lovers, I listened to their album. Ooh, that is a good one. I love that. The Modern Lovers, the first Modern Lovers album with their original singer, with that kind of black background. I think I'd heard the album once before, um, a while back, but it's a great album. I loved it. It's the best thing I've heard. I listened to some interesting electronic music that they kind of helped co-produce. Oaklander and something else. Kind of interesting, very Euro techy. Euro techno, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word. It's kind of dark wave-ish. I listened to Ian Drury. Just started listening to. Who else did I listen to? There's a bunch of. I listened to some more Clash that I hadn't heard. I listened to some Brian Eno that I didn't know particularly well. I listened to this guy Brian Akers, Brian Akers, I think. Interesting, really good guitar player. I listened to some more kind of listened to some '60s bubblegum pop that I'd never heard. It was kind of interesting, and just listening to a lot of stuff that I'd never heard before. Anytime I can find new music that I don't know particularly well, I'm always kind of intrigued because I'm so tired of listening to the same music. My at work and what my parents listen to is like the same collection of songs from. It's always playing now outside our house because my mother uses it to scare off the bears so that my dogs can go outside. Our dogs can go outside and pee and poop without potentially being attacked by a coyote or a bear. It's kind of ridiculous. We blast music all the time just for this reason. It's pretty counterintuitive for people that are supposed to be environmentally conscious, and we're wasting energy blasting this music out there. Um, but you hear the same crap. I've heard enough Simon and Garfunkel now. I used to really like Simon and Garfunkel. I still do, but you get tired of hearing the same songs over and over again. You get tired of hearing Crosby, Stills and Nash and Neil Young. I mean, part of the problem is it's Pandora, and Pandora just plays the same songs over and over and over and over. And they play Pandora at work, so it's those same songs again, over and over and over. And I'm so tired of I'm tired of that. I blame Pandora mostly because they just don't play the lesser known songs. They play the songs everybody knows, and you hear the songs everybody knows enough times, and you just get tired of hearing them. So, anything new at this point, I'm interested in hearing new things more than anything. So yeah, it's been good to hear new things. But anyway, so yeah, but that's a major aside there. Basically, I went to go online and listen to the recording of the helicopter pilot crashing, and that's what put me down the dark path of um, listening to people about to die. This is one of my things. I'm fascinated by death on some of them. I have this thing where I tend to be really into. Um, I both am terrified and fascinated by death. It's the same thing as my fixation on tornadoes. It's something that's so scary and evilly destructive, but at the same time, it's also so amazing. Just the idea of something like a tornado coming to bear down on you, something that is throwing projectiles 300 miles an hour in this vortex of death. I mean, it's the scariest thing, and there's something intriguing about it. You just it's like watching a train. Just like they talk about watching a train wreck. Well, that's kind of how I feel about you know tornadoes or watching these kind of dark videos. It's like you put yourself in that mindset. What's it going to be like when I'm dying? What's it going to be like when the end is approaching? So yeah, I watched a few of those videos. I couldn't find too many that were really worth watching. And then I got pushed on to murder interrogations. Um, I was never really into these videos before, but you've got these really sick, demented people, and I think it's you watch it because you kind of want to see you I don't know. There's a lot of real emotion. A lot of times you're just looking for real emotion. You don't get to see a lot of real emotion in life. That's why people watch dramas and things like that. Because watching real emotion is intriguing. That's why people like watching people be rejected on what's it called? American Idol. They like to see them cry. I don't know. Somehow watching people be sad and distraught is y'all people also we like watching people be happy. Like you like on Shark Tank. You have these assholes. These people on Shark Tank are entrepreneurial assholes who they all they care about is making money. Mostly, they pretend to care about the cause that they're fighting for, but 99% of the time, they really just want to make a bunch of money, and they're money grubbing, selfish assholes who had parents who were selfish assholes and taught them how to be selfish assholes, and so, But even those people that normally I would probably hate if I met them in person, When they get the deal at the end of Shark Tank, you can't help but be happy for them. They're so happy, and and it's like that's just because you get to watch their show of emotion. That's why people watch Shark Tank, to see people be happy when they get the deals, or to see them be disappointed when they don't get the deals. I think there's a natural human urge to kind of watch strong emotions, and because you can relate to those things, and it's kind of like it almost allows you to experience the emotion without having to be attached to the outcome of it. I think that's the real key to why we enjoy it. Um, in fact, when you watch those people get those deals on Shark Tank, that's probably like the high point of their lives. It's probably never as good as that moment. That's one of the reasons why I like reading, rock star autobiographies, because you read about these moments where they just they just made it. That's the most exciting parts of these books, when they just get over the hump and all of a sudden their records are going number one and they're realizing what this means for them, that their life is set. It's a hell of a way to live vicariously. Um, you can put yourself in that mindset. What would it be like for me to be right on the precipice of success like that? I don't think it's ever that good afterwards. But when that moment where you're coming to fame, for the first time, or coming to riches for the first time, it must be a hell of a thrill. So, the same thing goes with these interrogation videos. You're watching these people that kind of like they have to come to the realization that they've committed a murder, and they're going to be spending a long time in jail, often their whole lives, or they'll even be put on death row. And it's amazing to watch that, to watch someone break down emotionally. It's amazing to watch their families. There's another video. A young girl did it, and she was raised by her grandmother. Her grandmother doesn't know that this young girl, Alyssa Bustamante, um, had killed somebody, thought that she was innocent. And the moment that it was revealed that she actually slit this girl's throat, the grandmother just totally breaks down. And I don't know, I guess it's kind of sick to want to see that, but it's like just watching the gravity of that realization go over people, it's something to see, I guess. It's amazing. But from watching these videos, so basically, I'm watching all these kinds of really despicable people. I think I might be dark enough to watch stuff like this, but I'd never be dark enough to commit a heinous act like that. I could never kill anybody. I could never rape anybody. That will never be me. As angry as I am at God sometimes, as angry as I am at my fellow man sometimes, as much as I see being a human is kind of despicable. I do. I feel like I have a hard time empathizing. I do. I do lack empathy, like some of these murderers. I hear about people that have died on the news, and I don't really care. It doesn't affect me personally. The way I see it in my mind, if it wasn't for the news, if it wasn't for technology, I'd have no idea that these things happen. I don't care about the people in Ukraine that are getting bombed. I don't. Maybe does that make me a bad person? I don't know. That doesn't mean I'm gonna kill somebody. I think for me, when I see it, like if I saw someone getting beat in the street, or if I saw a cop beating somebody, or if I saw someone at my work getting shot, or some crazy shooter came into my work, then it hits home for me. I care about the people that I know and that I see, even if I don't know them. If I'm witnessing someone be you know tortured, abused, killed, something like that in person, I'm not going to be cool with that. It's not something I would want to stop. So it's not to say that I have no empathy. I do. I have empathy for people, but I have to kind of know them. I hear about tragedy on the news, and I can't bring myself to care. Some of these killers too. They're kind of like, I watched this one. This woman was like a crazy serial killer in Oregon, and she was even saying some of the things that I think about, that the world's overpopulated, and that we're destroying nature, and that, people just don't care. And, she didn't value human life much. And it's hard for me to value human life much myself, because, you know, because of the things I mentioned, we're so petty as humans. We sort of, so many people are so ignorant. So many people are so stupid, um, people are so vain. People have such big egos. People allow their id to control themselves, you know. Um, it's hard for me to be sympathetic to that side of humanity. But like I said, you know, I'm not as crazy as these people. I wouldn't kill, you know, I would never kill somebody. I don't understand how people can get a thrill out of killing people, you know. I would not find killing anyone enjoyable. I don't fantasize ever about killing anybody, like some of these crazy people do on these videos. um, I don't fantasize about raping a woman. I can't understand how anyone would get joy out of forcing a woman to be sexual with them. You know, maybe it's because I'm, you know, more of a submissive than a dominant. But it's not a fantasy for me, you know. Any of that kind of messed up stuff. I don't want to do any of that stuff. But the point I'm trying to make here is, you know, a lot of these people, they have these beliefs. I sometimes wonder if I had different parents, would that maybe that would have been different, you know. I had a really rough go. You know, a lot of these people, um, they are the way they are because they come from a background of trauma when they were young. And in that way, I understand them, you know. I come from a background of trauma when I was young. And there are types of trauma that can build you up as a person, and there's types of trauma that can pull you down as a person, you know. Types of trauma that, you know, like for example, your father dies when you're young, you know. Suddenly it's on you to sort of take care of your family, you know, or both your parents die when you're young or whatever. Then you got to take care of yourself and your family, you know. That can make you a stronger person, you know. Um, or maybe, you know, you get beaten by a parent. Maybe it makes you a stronger father in the long run because, you know, you don't want to do that to your child. I mean, that's, it could also go that, but that's the thing. That's what I'm saying is it's like, you know, you never know how people are going to react to things. And some of these people, like they had this video about this girl who was like, you know, sort of came from this background of where she was neglected and raped as like a baby by her father, you know, or just totally neglected, either neglected or abused, you know, these just horrendous, horrendous things. And she kind of had this, she started, this little girl was like, I don't know how, she was like, you know, 3 years old or something like that, and she's torturing her brother, you know. She's, you know, pinching his privates and trying to rape him up the ass and you know, sticking animals with needles and killing baby birds, and you know, she is, you know, as insane. You know, they had to lock her in her room at night because they were worried she was going to kill the parents. Locked her in the room because she was worried she was either going to kill her brother or kill them. And the girl said that she would kill, she would kill anybody she could. And you know, I mean, she was, this girl seems like, you know, the demon seed, you know. In the end, she went through this very intense program of like kind of psychological, you know, reprogramming type of thing. And she, I guess, became a nurse, and I suppose didn't fortunately didn't grow up to become a psychopath, but she was well on her way to being a psychopath if they hadn't stepped in with this, you know, intense program. And you know, a lot of these people that have done these terrible things. I mean, I've, you know, watched these interrogations of a guy who killed his whole family. You know, another girl who wanted had her boyfriend kill her father. A woman who lived on a farm and killed a bunch of handymen and, you know, buried them around her property. Or the girl who killed her neighbor and really, you know, got off on it. You know, this girl was like, you know, got off on the thrill of killing her neighbor, and was like, you know, it was just a budding serial killer, you know, that they were fortunately able to catch before she killed anyone else. But you know, but you know, a lot of times the reason why these people are this crazy is because they were unfortunate. They were born into a situation where they were abused. Um, where that's what they learned. They learned. It was almost like these people, these little, psychopaths, just like Jeffrey Dahmer was, same deal. You know, there were of reflections of evil in our culture. Reflections of evil that reflections of what's the word, maladaptive behavior, reflections of a lack of ethics, a lack of morals that existed before they were even around, and it was just kind of like a monkey see, monkey do kind of thing. And maybe some people, can grow up in that environment and turn away from that kind of thing, with the right, maybe they get lucky, you know, certain someone adopts them or someone takes them under their wing and shows them how to not be psychopaths. Um, but even then, sometimes, like this Elisa Bustamante, her grandmother and grandfather adopted her to try to keep her away from those situations. She still ended up losing her mind and thrill killing somebody. And I guess it just made me wonder, like I experienced a lot of trauma when I was younger. And if I hadn't had the supportive parents that I did who loved me, would I have been a murderer? You know, I mean, when I was a little kid, I choked a kid against a branch until he threw up. I was part of a little gang of kids, and I was kind of like the muscle in the gang. I think I would have been smart enough to not do that. Um, but it was kind of the group was led by this little sadist named Wally. I don't remember his last name. I was in elementary school out here in the hills here. I don't know where this guy Wally is, but I bet you you know, I don't know. I think he is. He came from conservative parents. I'm sure they were. You know, I don't know. He was a bad kid. You could kind of tell. But he was somehow his parents had a little bit of money, I guess. So he was sort of popular, maybe for that reason. His parents had a snowmobile. Everyone thought he was cool because his parents had a snowmobile. I remember out here, if you had a snowmobile, it made you kind of cool. Yeah, when you were in elementary school, anyway. Um, So he had this little gang of kids, and that were sort of his buddies. He was kind of like the ringleader of this gang of kids, and I was part of the gang for a little bit. Um, and I was kind of his muscle. And there was a kid we didn't like named Jason. I don't remember why we didn't like him. I do remember specifically thinking he was a jerk kid. And I didn't like him at all. I remember he was always kind of an enemy to me. So it wasn't just Wally telling me to do it, but one day Wally told me, choke, hey, take this kid and choke him, So I did, I picked him up and I choked him against a branch, I picked him up and I choked him against a branch until he threw up a little bit. He actually threw up a little bit of his lunch. I stopped at that point, but I was, but I'm wondering, did I stop because my parents were, I don't, I think I only did it because Wally told me to do it and I wanted to look cool for Wally, but, you know, if I hadn't had the parents I had, would I have just kept choking him until he died? Is that possible? You know, I scared him that day. He never messed with me as much after I choked him against that branch. But it was messed up. It was messed up that I did it. Even if he was a jerk, wasn't right. I would get into fights. Remember getting into a fight with two kids that were in a grade over me because I was a big kid, so I could kind of hold my own. But these two kids from the grade above me, I think we were fighting over the seesaw or something like that, and I got in a fight with both of them at the same time. I remember that. I used to do some. I remember as a little kid, I used to take paper towels from the bathroom, wet them in the sink, and toss them so they'd stick to the ceiling. I mean, I know a lot of kids do stupid shit like this, but that isn't even some of the worst things. But I would get into trouble for this stuff. I was kind of like a little bad kid, and they actually had me eventually go to a school counselor because they thought I was, crazy or that I was being abused at home, and they kept trying to, the school counselor, I would go and they'd take me out of class to talk to this counselor, and he would draw art with me and ask me, well, how's my home life? Did I get abused? They thought something, I was like, they thought I had, some kind of personality disorder, I think. Um, and I kept telling the guy, no, no, my parents are cool, they're really nice. So, I mean, fortunately, I remember one day the janitor took me aside and said, if you keep doing things like, throwing the stuff on the ceiling, then, and making trouble, then they're going to kick you out of the school. And I remember being like, oh no, I don't want to get kicked out of school. So I stopped doing that stuff. And I think, that was a major learning point for me. I have to thank that janitor, even though he was probably just trying to make his job easier so he wouldn't have to take stuff off the ceiling anymore. It was a terrible thing for me to be doing to that janitor, and that poor guy was just trying to keep the school clean, and I'm screwing up his bathroom over and over again. But he taught me an important lesson that day. It's like there's, you have to think of other people. But I think back to those era, I didn't think of other people. I used to be one of those kids that would burn ants with a magnifying glass. I remember doing it and thinking, oh, this is fun. And it's like you're torturing another living being. And maybe ants are kind of like, they're some of the dumbest things on earth. They really kind of work as a hive mind. They don't really have a lot of individual autonomy. But even still, the fact that I could, sit there and burn ants to death, watch them go up in flames with a magnifying glass and not feel any remorse, it makes me wonder, did I have the potential to be, someone who, I never killed any other animals. I never killed, squirrels or frogs or, I never wanted to, I guess I thought of ants as being something less than, an ant, I suppose at the time, didn't matter to me. But, looking at it now, I wouldn't do that anymore. And I'm kind of appalled by myself, thinking about how I used to kill those ants. And that's probably the worst thing I ever did was, well, killing the ants and choking the kid until he threw up. That was both those things were terrible. But I didn't at that point in my life. I didn't really care about anyone but myself. I didn't have any empathy for the things that I was, doing, or for the people I was harming, or the beings I was harming. And it makes me wonder, watching these videos, it made me, I actually, even as angry as I was at God, last night, I sort of said to myself, well, thank God, there were people there to keep me from becoming one of these psychopathic people, Thank God I didn't become a psychopath, considering the trauma that I experienced in school, And I'm realizing that, I know that I have mental issues, even not being a psychopath, a lot of these people in these videos, they experienced serious trauma when they were in their adolescent years, and that's when I experienced my trauma. And, on some level, I can relate to some of the crazy things they think and say, Obviously, like I said, not to the point where I'd be willing to, I have no desire to murder people or rape people, but, I don't have, maybe I don't have as much empathy. Like I say, I have empathy for people in person, but I don't have a lot of empathy for people that are not in my sphere of existence. Um, and you know, I guess I see similar traits in me that I see in them. I don't know, not too many, but some. And I think it's because, I was traumatized as a youth from, you know, being relentlessly teased and picked on, you know. My school experience was traumatic, and I know that's why, probably the biggest reason why I haven't been more successful in life, why one of the things they said about one of the crazy people, is that they gave up on things, that they never followed anything through. And that's one of the things I noticed. I never follow anything through. I don't believe in successful outcomes in the end. Maybe that's because I was just trained to think that I was a piece of crap, trained to think that I didn't have any worth in school, that I was, not worthy of love and that kind of stuff. And I've always, I guess I've always been aware of that. I guess there are ways to work through that, but it's like at this point in my life, I can't have what I want anymore. And so it's hard for me to want to work through my problems when I can't get what I want out of life anymore in my mind. This is what my logic says. This is what my rationale says. Maybe that's not a good rationale. Maybe that just comes from my traumatic background. I don't know, but probably. But you know, I can't really afford the therapy. I don't want my parents to have to pay for it. I don't know if I believe that how effective it can even be. You know, you have to be lucky enough to find the right therapist too, which is not easy. You know, um, one of these guys committed a murder when he went off his medication. You know, I've never taken medication, but you know, like this, you know, I've always thought, well, it's unnatural to be taking medication in order to live a normal life. You know, it's unnatural to be on medication. If that's what you know, if you, it shouldn't be natural to need medication to live your life. I've always assumed that, you know, I've always assumed that, you know, it's your job to kind of, you know, I guess get over your own problems without the use of medication, basically. I don't believe in necessarily believe in chemical imbalances in the brain. I think our actions, our behavior is related to what we experienced when we were young, you know, during our phases, most important phases of our development. Um, and there's probably ways to get through that, but it's not easy and it takes a lot of time. Now, maybe medication can help, but you know, I've never thought it's a good idea to take medication. But this guy in this one murder went off of this medication and he murdered, you know, shortly after that. So it makes me wonder, well, you know, all right, is that because he was on the medication in the first place, or did he really need that medication to exist? You know, how reasonable is it? You know, they didn't have medication, they didn't have brain altering medication for many, many years, and all of a sudden now it's considered normal to take things that alter your mental state, you know. Is that normal? Should we, you know, should people have to, you know, is this a good thing for the world for people to be on medication all the time, or is this just a way for pharmaceutical companies to make a lot of money? You know, are there other ways to deal with this that don't involve medication? You know, I wonder about these things. Would my life be better if I started taking medication? You know, would I live in a way that was more, um, you know, that was more fulfilling? I guess I don't know. But regardless of all this, the point along, I guess it's already been over an hour, so I guess I'll just get around to the point here. The point I'm trying to make is, um, you know, it's a shame for people like us who've dealt with trauma. You know, these murderer people. You know, it's easy to sit in judgment of these murderer people and say, you know, you kind of watch them, and it's like part of the reason why you watch them is kind of because like it's sort of amazing to see the depths of what people are capable of, the depravity of what people are capable of when, you know, when they are as badly psychologically damaged as these people are. But it also made me realize, you know, that maybe I could be that person if I wasn't more lucky, you know. And anybody maybe could be that person if they were born into the wrong scenario. And you know, I guess I just feel, and then in some way, I feel for these people. I feel for even for these murdering people. You know, these people have committed these horrible things because, like I say, you know, in some way, they're just reflections of the pain of the world. You know, the brokenness of the world. You know, these people came from broken backgrounds, and and they sort of are just echoing, you know, the pain and the suffering that they had to experience in life, you know, and putting it on and bringing it, you know, down the line, you know. It's passed along just like genes, you know, that kind of these effed up mentalities are passed along, and you know, it's a shame, I guess. Basically, what I'm saying is that, you know, it's really sad that that people like me and these, you know, crazy killer people and other people who aren't killers but are like me and that haven't lived their lives to their true potential aren't feeling like they're living a life that they can feel fulfilled and proud of. It's a shame that you know, that no one was there to help these people. You know, no one was there to help us during our worst times. You know, that we had to suffer through that by a luck of the draw type of situation. And You know, for those people whose psychological traumas don't make them stronger, are the types of things that make you have low self-worth, and that, um, you know, make you less empathetic, and you know, make you less valuing of your fellow man. You know, it's a shame that you know, it's kind of like these people like that just have to kind of, you know, they sort of become, you know, evil people that everyone just kind of, you know, writes off as, oh, this person must be evil, you know, pure evil. But really, they're not evil, you know. They're just echoing the pain and suffering that exists already. You know, they're just reflections of reflections of um, reflections of the broken parts of the human experience, I guess. Uh, you know, they're reflections of the worst side of the coin. You know, there's good and bad, but some of us, you know, end up reflections of the bad, and in some ways, that's what I am. You know, I'm a reflection of. Um, I'm a reflection of the hierarchy, you know, that exists. I'm a reflection of you know, that's why I was put down. You know, I was put down so that other people could prop themselves up. You know, I was put down because everyone's trying to fight for their themselves, and sometimes the best when you don't have a lot to stand on, sometimes the best way to prop yourself up is to make someone else look worse by comparison. And and you know, I think I'm a reflection of that. I came of age during the '90s when you know, Married with Children was big. You know, if you know Married with Children, if you know Martin, the show Martin with Martin Lawrence, all that comedy around that time, even The Simpsons, you know, a little bit, not as much, but you know, all the comedy around that time was about, you know, putting other people down so that you could put yourself up, and the kids were echoing that mindset all the time. You know, it was like, you know, it was all about, you know, how could you, you know, insult people. It was like insult comedy was at its high. You know, that was during the time of Def Comedy Jam too. You know, when you know, that to me is another, you know, I don't know. I'm not going to go into that, but basically there was like a lot of insult comics. You know, insult comedy was all the rage in the mid '90s, and you know, there's always been a lot of keeping up with the Joneses and stuff like that. But you know, it's kind of like that hierarchy that existed in school. You know, the kind of consumerism of, you know, I couldn't relate to my peers because you know, I thought, you know, '90s look like gangster rap. You know, that was what was the music that was popular during the '90s. You know, I'm so great, check me out, I got hoes, I'm gonna steal your girlfriend. You know, I couldn't relate to that. You know, that's what people love. You know, and my generation is like that. There's a lot of like, well, check me out, I'm better than you. You know, there's a lot of I'm better than you in my generation. You know, there's a lot of comparisons. There's a lot of, you know, check out my kids. You know, check out my job. You know, look at me. You know, look how great I am. You know, you wish you. There's a lot of keeping up with the Joneses. I think it's pretty much been that way. It's not to say it's just my generation because it was like that in the '80s too. Um, but I feel like it's only going more that direction. You know, what are people into now? You know, it's not like it's gotten a lot better. You know, now it's like you got people wanting to live Instagram lifestyles. You know, not wanting to be influencers. You know, all they want to do is show people. You know, post photos of how, you know, they're flying in jets and how they're, you know, they got the best courtside seats for the game, and they got the best handbags, and they got the best, you know, shoes, and you know, they're staying at the best hotels, and they got the best view, and they got the best house, and you know, they got the richest husband, and you know, it's like these, all you people that watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians, you know, you just want that glam lifestyle, and there's no redeeming quality to it. It's it's wealth for the sake of wealth. It's showing off for the sake of showing off. It's like, check me out, I'm better than you. I got all this stuff. I'm so great. That's the mindset. And it's that kind of mindset, I think, that makes people feel inferior. You know, it's sick. I think it's mostly women too. I really do. I mean, guys and women both do it, but I think guys do it to make the women happy. Women are obsessed with this sort of like, oh well, I did. Check out my boyfriend. He's this. He's so special. We're a power couple. And it does seem to me like it comes from women even more than men. But that's not even necessarily true. I'm probably just saying that. There's also guys that are like, oh yeah, check me out. I got the bigger truck and whatever. I got with guys, it's kind of like, oh, um, check how ripped I am, or check out how hot my girlfriend is, or guys have their own stupid shit too. I feel like women are more about the status thing though. That's what bothers me about the women. They're really into my status versus your status. My boyfriend, my boyfriend does this. I've got this. Check me out. There's a lot of kind of like, especially girls to girls. A lot of girls are wanting to prove that their lifestyle is better than their girlfriends or than anybody they know. And that's why they go for the wealthy men, because they've got to feel like they're on top. That's part of the female biological drive, is to have the most, to have the most resources available for your kids, so that your kids are going to be superior to everyone else's kids. I mean, there's also guys feel that way too, but it ends up being not so much about status, more about like, well, my son is the quarterback or whatever, or, my son is, I don't know. My son's, getting his degree at Berkeley or whatever. There's just this is all part of the human stupidity. Is this sort of this is why I resent being a human being at all. I resent. This is one of the reasons why I'm angry at God. That's why I have a problem with existence in general. Is it's we're reduced to this silly battle. We're all mortal, so it's all stupid. We're all gonna die. It's not gonna matter really where we get to. But we're stuck in this kind of we have natural biological instincts to be like, well, oh yeah, well, I'm better. It's this constant competition that exists, and we're all just pawns in this game. Pawns in this game of competition. We all get thrown into it. We have to compete. There's no choice. You can't drop out of the game. You're in it as soon as you're in it. That's it. And it becomes a I'll get mine before you get yours kind of a game like that. There's definitely, obviously, there's still some communal element to it, and we should try to help each other out. There's no question about it. But living in capitalism, capitalism is always stressing you better outcompete. You got to outcompete. It's all about competition. You got to get the promotion. You got to nail the interview. You got to be a homeowner. You got to live the American dream. You got to have a secure financial future. It's sort of like this. You got to have the best shoes. Everyone's going to be jealous of your car. Oh, you're going to show off the best ring that your boyfriend bought for you. Um, you know, you're going to have the nicest house. All these commercials play on these human frailties. Um, you know, check out see what your neighbor says when they see you've got this new lift gate trunk. Lift gate tailgate or whatever the fuck it is. You know, and you have all these people being assholes in these commercials, acting like, oh yeah, check me out, I'm so cool. And they're playing on this natural instinct we have to be better than everyone else. And it's sad, and I have it in me too. I play cards with my friends, and I want to win every game. I want to prove I'm better at cards than they are. And it's totally meaningless. I mean, maybe it means I have some ability to calculate percentages quickly. I don't even really calculate them that quickly. I don't calculate them. I could pay more attention. I could be trying harder, um, but I want it to be fun, But it's gotten competitive, I've been playing these card games, and it's gotten to the point where since I've won more than everybody else, everyone's out to get me now. They're especially focused on me, and to the point where you know people who I thought were nice folks, and they generally are nice folks. I'm not saying they're not nice, but I get some really puzzling reactions. My I was playing last night, and my buddy goes like this, straight up, gives me the finger. You know, he's a nice dude, and I mean, he's partially joking, but only partially. He's angry at me, and I don't even, I'm a little smug when I win. I kind of smile a lot. I don't talk a lot of crap. I really don't. You know, I try to stay silent just so as not to draw too much attention to myself. Um, but I love to win. I do love to win, and I think they know that. They see me when I'm winning, and they can't stand my smugness. They can't stand it. Um, they can't stand it to the point. Sorry, I put my computer in. They can't stand my smugness to the point that they all come after me. And I don't talk shit. I'm not an asshole about it. I don't. I'm just happy when I win. And they can tell I'm happy when I win, and they hate me for it. They hate me for being happy when I win, and I've won the most, so they especially hate me because I've got the best record. But the amount of hate I'm getting, and the trying to, I don't even know if I want to play anymore. It's getting so competitive. It's ridiculous, and this is a meaningless card game. I don't. It doesn't make me feel a lot better about myself that I happen to be the best at this game at the. And I'm not even necessarily the best. I mean, in the beginning, I was playing a lot more games with them early, and they were just learning how to play the game. So now everyone's very good. We're almost all at the same level. I still manage to have a winning record versus everybody, but they're closing the gaps on me fast. Partially because I think they're all out to get me now because they know I'm the best, and that's only fair. If you're the best, then people should come at you. But at the same time, it's like, it's taking away some of the fun for me. It's getting to the point of hyper competitiveness that I'm tired. Like, people are giving me the finger now for winning. It's just, I don't want people to hate me. I don't want people to hate me for occasionally winning this game. And that's what I feel like and that's the only place I'm a winner. In all other aspects of life, I'm a total loser. But because of this one card game, because I win, they hate me for it. People hate you when you win. They don't want you to have success. At least maybe it's just capitalism. I don't know, but you know, but I need to win at cards. It's all I got. It's the only place where I'm a winner. If I don't win there, then it's like I'll feel like I'm a loser at everything. But they don't want to give me that. They don't even want to give me that. And just feeling like a loser generally because of being a human and having to fight this battle. I'm making very little money. I'm losing the game in the United States. Capitalism is to make the most money, and I'm in the lower rungs of this. And I'd rather feel bonded with other people who are making no money along with me, but the problem is that it's kind of a winner take all situation in capitalism. If you're making under 40 grand a year, you're having a hard time paying the bills. Something seriously bad happens to you, and it's hard to afford the health care anymore. And there's this situation where it's like seems like you make over 30 grand, you make enough that you have to, you don't get a lot of help. You still have to buy your own insurance, but you spend so much money on the health insurance that you can't even really, it ends up being like the type where you have a huge deductible, and your already strained finances are strained more by this expensive health insurance. Um, so it's like it's hard to make a living. It's hard to be financially solvent and to have any kind of stability in your life when you're making 30 to 40 grand a year. And I don't know. I guess it's just, I wouldn't mind being a loser if I could be a comfortable loser. But when you're a loser, in capitalism, you suffer. You pay for it during your life. Your life becomes very uncomfortable. So, I wish I could be okay being a loser. I wish I could just drop out from the whole thing, but you just can't drop out. People are always making judgments about you. If people knew I lived at home at work, they'd be making judgments about me. You know, I'd be even seen as even more of a loser. Every time I got a promotion, people would be saying, "Well, look, this guy's got the job. He can't even take care of himself." That's what people are going to say to themselves. People knew that I worked with that I got given the job over them, and they're taking care of themselves, and I need help to exist. They would resent me just for that. That's part of what it is to be human. It's all these judgments and you know all this petty thought, all this vain, self-centered. That's why I resent being made a human at all, having to live this existence. Being a human is we're despicable. In some ways, we're very despicable. Um, you see the worst parts of people like that all the time. That kind of keeping up with the Joneses mentality, that kind of vain egocentrism, that narcissism that happens. Everyone trying to control their image the way I am. Not letting on to their worst traits and trying to promote the ones. It's a bunch of PR lying that happens all the time. We can't be honest with each other. We can't be vulnerable with each other. If we're vulnerable, instead of getting people's empathy, they take advantage and they say, "Oh, you're just this." They demote you in their mind. They they use your weakness against you. That's what happens. Weaknesses. Public displays of weakness aren't appreciated; they're exploited. So, yeah, that's why I struggle to be a human at all. It's hard to exist in this world where you're constantly being judged. I'm tired of being judged. And I guess I'm just making this video to say I feel for all you people that are suffering like I do under that same type of mentality. You know, I'd like to say I just I just want to get along with everybody, but it just seems like people make it impossible to get along. And if you're one of those people that's suffering in life, I guess I'll just finish this by saying this. I've dealt with people, on this channel. There's a lot of people like me who struggle to compete, who've experienced trauma, and that trauma's held them back in life and made them pariahs amongst their friends and family, and especially people they don't know. Um, and for those people, I'd say, I empathize with you especially. If there's anyone I have empathy with, it's people who under had to undergo trauma the way I did. Um, and if you are not a crazy murderer, I guess that's what I would say is don't turn to murder. Try not to allow, your trauma to make you into, to try not to, I guess, allow it to erase your sense of morality and right and wrong. And don't kill anybody. Please, please don't kill anybody. Don't rape anybody. Don't abuse anybody. Don't torture anybody. We're never going to get, people like me are never going to get a lot of credit for not being crazy murderers. Nobody ever really gets credit for being for holding on and just soldiering on and living the best life they can in the face of trauma. But I think that if you can do that, as long as you don't allow it to make you psychotic, don't allow it. I mean, I've had to use some amount of restraint in order to not allow my trauma to make me into a terrible person. Or maybe I've just been lucky, that I've been raised with to understand that you need to have that restraint. And I'm telling you now, as somebody who was lucky enough to be raised to understand that you need to have restraint, please have restraint. Don't let your trauma control you to the point that, you let yourself do something terrible with it. I think there is a certain heroic, um, I mean, I probably shouldn't say heroic thing, but there's something very honorable, I suppose, about, taking a shitty hand and taking a world that doesn't care about you, a world that doesn't have empathy for your situation, a world that's more likely to put you down for the trauma you've experienced than to prop you up and to help you cope. No one cares. People don't really care about each other anymore. It's really sad living in an individualistic culture that like we do. No one really cares that much about your struggles. They have their own problems to deal with, so it's understandable. But let me just tell you that if you've dealt with trauma and you manage to soldier on and you manage not to judge people and you manage not to treat people like shit, you manage to treat everyone with respect and attempt as much as you can in this world where everyone judges to not be judgmental of other people and to, treat everyone with respect. And I respect you for that, and I think you deserve a lot of credit. And I urge you, don't let your dark side take over. I have to tell myself all the time not to. But, you know, there's something honorable in just living, even if you're just living a boring life. You've been held back in life. Even if you aren't going to achieve your goals, and even if you are, going to be seen as a ne'er do well by other people, and you're going to struggle to make ends meet and all that stuff. I give you credit. I respect you for sticking it out, not committing suicide, for, not killing anyone, I consider it, laudable that you've made it through life, even with all your trauma, and somehow managed to just, you know, allow yourself to exist until finally, the pain is over. You don't have to deal with it anymore. And if you're able to get your life together and exceed in this stupid rat race, then I guess good on you. I wish I could do it, but I don't think it's going to happen for me because my dreams are no longer, I don't have any dreams that I can work towards except for maybe writing this book, which I might do. But anyway, good luck to you people who've had trauma, and just know that I appreciate you, and I'm sorry to those of you to any of you who have done terrible things, even though, obviously you should have exercised some restraint, I still have empathy for your situation. Um, and for those people who are considering doing terrible things, please don't, please don't kill anybody or rape anybody, please try to be a good person. If you do that, I think you've accomplished something.